Hello, welcome again. I'll continue our conversation with an explanation of I in UCCS-IASP and complex systems. The I in IASP refers to recursive interactions among inter, trans, cross, multi, space and time varying elements, including dynamics of patterns, and the idea of other than that, which is 5,000 years old, Eastern philosophical concept. Today, 4 agenda items are on topics of complex systems. They are listed below. Also, on June 23rd, Dr. Melanie Mitchell from Santa Fe Institute will present Artificial Intelligence, a guide for thinking humans. Here is an example of edge of chaos and sensitivity to initial conditions. Some examples of complex systems work at UCCS. In 2007, the Master of Science in Computer Science, Games and Media Integration program was approved with courses in complex systems. 2014, UCCS Honors Program started framing gray matters as complex systems. In 2020, XR Complexity in Complex Systems group was established. The lineage of complex system is in the works of Poincare and Charles Darwin. Also, butterfly effect is basically related to local interactions, which can create global phenomena concept, and complex systems dependence on sensitivity to initial conditions. Next, 3 videos are being presented on this topic. 11:25, Dr. Liesel Eberhardt interprets Dr. Heitman's gray matters in her own words. 11:30, Dr. Robert Sackett. He was given a prompt, what is the one thing which could have prevented world crisis of 1920s to 1940s? And then lastly, Dr. Kuzma will explain transhumanism and emergence. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Liesel Eberhardt, and I'm sorry I can't be with you all today. I'm traveling, but Samwell has asked me to just give a brief statement addressing the question, how would Dr. Michael Hackman define gray matters? And also, how did he generally incorporate the ideas of gray matters into his teaching style? And so what I really wanted to talk about was his inspiration and motivation to me in inviting me to join the Gray Matters team, and how he did contextualize and define gray matters for me. To give you just a brief background, I was his counterpart in teaching leadership communication in the communication department under the professional communication track. And he inspired me to study leadership and get my PhD in that area. So it was a long relationship where I was exposed to ideas of leadership directly from him, and traveling with him, seeing him teach leadership, seeing him consult with organizations professionally and present at conferences. And so there was a lot of different opportunities for me to see him at work across different areas. And he strongly believed that leadership was a product of extraordinary communication, and that leaders needed first and foremost to be relationship builders and communicators that were intent upon building their organizations through strong interconnectedness among their people. So when he had a vision for this honors program with students, he sought feedback from honors students as to what were some of the skills they felt they most needed to develop. And what his conclusions were is that honors students felt they most needed to develop skills in functioning where there was ambiguity, functioning in areas that were less clearly defined. So honor students were exceptionally good at following instructions and operating within assignment criteria, but where they felt they struggled was in areas that were less comfortable to them, and where they had to maybe rely on more creativity and less structure. And maybe not just with honor students, maybe with a lot of us, but especially with honor students who really liked clearly defined parameters and rules. And so he wanted to have the GPS Gray Matters course operate in that gray area of ambiguity to challenge these students to be leaders, to really kind of emerge as leaders within their respective disciplines and areas, so that they would be our leaders of the future. And that's what his vision was. That's how he explained it to me, that gray was a play on gray matters as brain power, but also as operating within that ambiguous area. And it partners well with the idea of complexity, because when we think of operating in areas of ambiguity for decision-making processes, we're looking for basically creative problem solving for complex problems. For all of us that had cross-disciplinary areas that were our expertise, and how we kind of had the leadership and complex systems going together. And Dr. Hackman, in approaching the way he taught his courses, he developed organizational leadership, he taught the capstone, and it's a seminar course in organizational change and development. He very much wanted students to be creative in their approaches to applying theory and taking what they've learned and synthesize it into a very real and meaningful way. So I've continued to try to carry on some of his vision for leadership in the courses I teach within the leadership track, along with my partners in professional communication and leadership. And wish all of you the best of luck as you look at cross-disciplinary partnerships and carrying on the ideas of Gray Matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Samwell. The question that has been put to me is to identify a factor that would have put a stop to the Holocaust. I see no hope. The only thing I can imagine would be the removal from power of Adolf Hitler by death, by incapacitation, some kind of secular miracle, such as during the occupation of Paris, his plane crashes into the Eiffel Tower. Otherwise, I would have to look at forces and counterforces, as historians usually do, and try to imagine a different outcome than what was produced. No substantial section of the German populace would have risen up against him, not for maltreatment of the Jews and not for any other reason. This was a consensus regime. By 1936, most Germans accepted the regime. They may have felt disapproval about this or that policy. They may have felt some distaste for the Nazi style, but they regarded the regime as a necessity for Germany, as a way to return Germany to a position of power and honor. Great Britain and France would not have intervened until they did, which was the start of the Second World War. A coup on the part of German generals is imaginable, but it would have had to do with conduct of the war. The relationship of those generals to the Holocaust was ambiguous at best. At worst, it was murderous and callous. Again, I see no hope. Why study history if the effect of that is to dampen hope? Why should I outline to you events whose unlikelihood are underlined by the fact that they did not happen? I think I should turn the whole thing around. Not unlikely events that did not happen, but unlikely events that could have happened or that did happen. Turn the focus, in other words, from Germans onto the victims of the Holocaust. Change the scale of the entire question, not impose some hopeful narrative upon the tragic narrative that was the Holocaust, but rather look at victims themselves and look at their capacity for hope. Because these victims showed, in some cases, more courage and more agency and more capacity for life, capacity for hope than is sometimes recognized. Consider the 1987 movie, which was made in France, Au revoir les enfants, Goodbye to the Children, by Louis Malle. Malle had been a boy during the Second World War, and he had lived at a Catholic boarding school where he saw the events that became the basis for his film script. 3 Jewish boys given refuge and therefore bogus Christian identities by the Catholic father who was the head of this boarding school. There followed a denunciation, arrests by the Gestapo. The 3 boys were deported to Auschwitz, where they died. The Catholic father deported to Mauthausen, where he died. The Catholic father, by the way, is now recognized at the Yad Vashem Institute in Jerusalem among the righteous of the nations. In other words, an awful outcome. In the film, Louis Malle focused upon one of the Jewish boys still at the school, and I think he showed that this Jewish boy was capable of hope. Now, as you know, the bounds of artistic license are broader than the bounds of historical accuracy, and who knows what embellishment went into the scene that I am about to describe. Malle, in any case, knew the boy in question and based the main character of the film on that boy. The film caused me, in any case, to entertain the idea that even under these conditions of seeming complete doom, that it was possible for a child to have a sense of humor and to laugh, and in this way to experience hope. The scene is this. The teachers of the school had decided to run for the boys the film The Immigrant, which is a silent film, 1917, by Charlie Chaplin. It's about the passage, or about the first half of the film, it's a short film, is the passage of immigrants on a ship to the United States. Now, this topic has the potential to be a sour spot for Jewish children, because the immigration policy during the Second World War in country after country, including the United States, was inhospitable, if you will, just cruel. And that's why so many Jews and so many other peoples targeted by the Nazis were stuck in Europe without hope of escape. And you see that in the expression of the main character, that when the Statue of Liberty looms on the screen, he's very attentive. He's thoughtful, because he recognizes that this is a symbol of precisely the safety that has been denied to him. But Charlie Chaplin's antics delight the boys, and they soften this Jewish boy. He laughs along with them. The film just tickles them. I mean, the ship, of course, shifts to and fro on the ocean waves, and the characters are forever sliding around the deck and bumping into each other, some of course, leaning over the rail because of seasickness, and the boys just laugh themselves sick. And so, well, not sick in that sense, but they laugh themselves into pure enjoyment. And that led me to entertain the thought that someone could, that under these circumstances, a child could indeed laugh and feel hope. You know, I wish I had the time to tell you more about something that actually happened. This is in Vilna, now Lithuania, under Nazi occupation. Some physicians and some nurses and some office personnel put together a clinic, a medical clinic. They did so under terrible circumstances. The SS would periodically raid the ghetto, and they would lead people away to be killed. In the ghetto itself, there was hunger, malnutrition, disease, overcrowding, and of course, depression. And yet these people, this medical staff, continued to keep the clinic running under circumstances like that. Imagine their circumstances. Imagine that they needed to encourage each other. Imagine that they noticed lapses into despair in each other. Imagine that they noticed lapses into despair in themselves. And yet the clinic remained. How did they get their medicine? How did they get their medical supplies? They had to maintain contacts outside the ghetto. And in this context, contacts outside the ghetto is a euphemism for bribery. They had to bribe people outside the ghetto to get what they needed. And they did so, but at great risk to themselves. And of course, through the depletion of the funds that they had to procure whatever it was that they needed. I mean, the situation was abominable. And think of the pressure that rained in upon them. They had problems of logistics. They had problems of the overall situation. They had nutritional problems. They had emotional problems. And yet somehow they continued, they maintained. And they did so under circumstances where the news that came into them was horrific. They would get reports of murders. They would hear rumors about what the SS planned to do next. And yet they continued. And it's this ability to hold up under pressure that changed day by day because of the nature of their situation, because of the nature of what they heard from outside about the SS, about the murders. It's this that I would identify as a capacity for hope. You know, in the Gray Matters course that Dr. Samwell and Dr. Kuzma and I teach about in the honors program, it's our GPS section of the honors program. We all read the book by Melanie Mitchell, which is entitled Complexity. And we think in terms of putting an emphasis of complexity on the subjects that we teach. For me, and as an historian, the situation that I described is complex because of all of the pressures that weighed upon these people, including the emotional pressures. And so I think that it fits the theme of complexity. And with regard to the theme that I've been trying to sound, the theme of hope, I think that it fits. I think that it indeed is a sign of hope. I have not told you how I think the Holocaust could have been stopped, but I think I've given you an idea about the human spirit. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sackett. I appreciate it.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joseph Kuzma. I'm a philosophy instructor here at UCCS, and I'm also the Associate Director of the UCCS Honors Program. I was so delighted when I received an invitation from Professor Samwell to be part of this interdisciplinary project. Creating synergy across diverse disciplines is a big part of what I aim to do as a philosopher. Now, over the past 5 years or so, I've been spending more and more time researching the philosophies of transhumanism and trying to help students to think critically about the various ethical and bioethical dilemmas which the advent of cyborgs and artificial intelligence in our society have brought about. Here's a quick taste of the types of questions which Professors Sackett, Samwell, and I have been raising in our interdisciplinary courses on complexity. Let's imagine a rather heartbreaking scenario, quite close to home for me personally, and probably for countless others as well. Let's imagine that your grandmother is suffering from a degenerative ailment that renders her incapable of communicating, of feeding herself, or even of recognizing you and the rest of your family. Nevertheless, she is breathing on her own, and she seems relatively peaceful, simply staring at a TV screen. You were approached in this scenario by a reputable neuroscientist and offered the following proposal. The neuroscientist claims that she can hook your grandma up to an elaborate brain scan device and upload your grandma's language, her language use patterns, her behavioral predispositions, and even some of her memories into a cloud network, allowing you to continue communicating with her virtually through an instant messenger style interface. The downside, though, is that in order for this procedure to be completed, the flesh and blood grandmother has to be painlessly euthanized. For many of us, this scenario might sound far-fetched, but what we've discovered is that thought experiments like this one offer students an excellent opportunity to contemplate a host of complex and eminently relevant questions about the nature of personal identity, the limits of artificial intelligence, and even the ethics of end-of-life patient care. In the process, students are able to engage critically across a variety of disciplines, including neuroscience, philosophy, and even computer science, among others. This is the spirit of interdisciplinary exchange that we are looking to cultivate, and I look forward to collaborating with many of you in the months and years to come.
Oh, okay. Hi, my name's Carol Pina. Let me bring up my PowerPoint here. I had it up. Here we go. Thank you for your patience here. There we go. Got my glasses on, but it's still, there we go. Thank you, Dr. Samwell, for letting me do my presentation that he calls the Texas Turtles. I've done this several times for the honors GPS class, Gray Matters, when they're looking at possibly some ideas to work on their portfolio. And so this is a shortened presentation that I'm going to give. This presentation, the first part is a brief history of the Kemp Ridley's sea turtles and how Allison, the green sea turtle, learned how to swim again. A couple of years ago, I went to South Padre Island in Texas to watch baby sea turtles hatch, and I visited the Sea Turtle Center in South Padre Island, where my interest in sea turtles developed. First, I will cover some of the history I learned about the Kemp Ridley, the smallest of all sea turtles. The Kemp Ridley species is estimated at 4 million years old and was first identified in 1906. In 1947, an amateur film showed some 40,000 Kemp Ridley's females nesting in Rancho Nuevo, Mexico in a single day. That's a lot of turtles. Soon the local residents found that turtles were a great commodity for their shells, for their meat, and for their eggs. After several years, the amount of Camp Ridley's turtles drastically decreased and they became on the endangered list. In 1985, a project was started as a safeguard against extinction so that if a political or environmental disaster occurred in Rancho Nuevo, Mexico, there would be a safe place in the United States where the Kemp Ripleys could nest and be protected. This project brought eggs from Mexico to Padre Island for incubation and to establish a secondary nesting colony. To imprint the turtles to Padre Island National Seashore, the hatchlings were released on the beach, allowed to crawl in the surf, and captured in nets. Then the hatchlings were sent to a hatchery so they could grow about 9 to 11 months. This allowed them to grow to the size large enough to be tagged for future recognition and to avoid most predators when they were released. It was 10 years before they saw the first sea turtle return to Padre Island to nest. And that meant that the imprinting and their work is going to show benefit with the sea turtles returning. Before that, they had no idea. They were hoping that they would return, but they had no idea that they would. This was the first documented evidence of a sea turtle of any species that had been experimentally imprinted to a particular area to return to that area to nest. This imprinting process will drastically increase the Kemp Ridley's chance of survival. My second part is when I visited the Sea Turtle Center, where they had large tanks for turtles that were being rehabilitated or ones that could not be released due to injuries. The turtle that stood out to me was a green turtle named Allison. She was found on the beach of Padre Island and was missing 3 flippers caused by a shark encounter. Since she was missing 3 flippers, she could not be released back to the ocean. She received medical care and was put in a large tank to teach others about her species. For years, Allison could only swim in circles when this was noticed by an intern in the facility. Because of the 1 flipper and she did not have a rudder, she just swam in circles. The intern designed a prosthetic device that Allison used as a rudder and allowed her to swim like a typical turtle. This prosthetic even was designed so it could be enlarged as she grew. So this small area, the metal, had a release that could be made larger, and then the rudder was secured to a shell, as you can see. This was the first successful sea turtle prosthetic in the world. Both of these examples that I told you about is where a problem occurred and collaboration and people stepped up to find a solution. There are a lot of opportunities in your life where you can find the solution and make a difference. So again, this was a presentation that I made to the honor students to think about something that they might be interested in or passionate in, maybe even outside their major, to consider to investigate different areas. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation, even though I messed up on the PowerPoint. I really appreciate your patience and thank you.
Eddie, you can go ahead, please. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Debra Pina Thomas, and I am an assistant professor in the Johnson Bethel College of Nursing and Health Sciences. And I'm the lead faculty for the mental health nursing course. And so one of my goals in preparing nursing students for their future career in nursing is to help them develop therapeutic communication skills, those soft skills that we normally don't spend a whole lot of time in these other nursing courses where we're more focused in on skills development And so my goal was to help nursing students develop empathy and then empathetic curiosity. And so we hadn't been engaged with the simulation center, with the state-of-the-art simulation center that we have here. And so I connected with Dr. Lynn Phillips, who is the director of the Sim Center. And we started working on a workshop, a hearing voices workshop. And it simulates how a client who has the diagnosis of schizophrenia, and what it would be like for someone to hear voices and to be able to negotiate daily things in life. And so the students actually became the client. And so they would listen to a recording while they were asked to do different simple tasks. And then we would discuss. And so during this time, we had a graduate student that was a computer science graduate student, and he was helping us with the workshop. And he approached me, and his name is Abhishek, and he said, we can do this a little bit differently and provide more of an immersive experience for the nursing students. And so he talked with Dr. Samwell, and who was his chair for his committee. And I was fortunate to be a part of that committee. And Abhishek developed a protocol of virtual reality simulation using head-mounted displays for this hearing voices simulation. And so Abhishek graduated, and then we had another grad student, Ron Jackson, who has expanded on this virtual simulation. And we're looking forward to this summer and in the fall to try this test this prototype out in a pilot study. And so how this collaboration between nursing, computer science started was through the influence of a graduate student. And so very excited. There's not a lot of research out there on using virtual reality, augmented reality in nursing as far as with mental health nursing. And it's really important for our nursing students to be able to connect with their patients and develop a nurse-client relationship. And through empathy, the nurse is able to kind of put themselves in the patient's shoes and say, if I had just gotten this diagnosis, this is what I would probably be feeling. And using empathetic curiosity by asking the patient, what does this mean for you? And developing that rapport that is so crucial to the nurse-client relationship and the nursing care that we provide. And nursing in general is a very complex profession. If you think about all the different elements that or factors that influence nursing care, think of family, think of technology, think of society, and especially with mental health, we have a huge problem with stigma. And so I'm trying to create an environment and expose the students to simulation, immersive simulation that would create a more empathetic approach to their patient care. And so I'm gonna turn it over to Lynn, Dr. Lynn Phillips, so she can talk about the Simulation Center.
Thank you, Dr. Pina Thomas. Just to welcome everybody to our Simulation Center. If you are down at U-Hall, I know it's kind of out of the way, but you're certainly welcome to attend any of our simulations so you can see what we're up to down here. I think initial concept of a simulation center was to do hands-on practice. And I know almost any degree, that's really helpful to do hands-on practice. In our particular center, we do hands-on practice both with mannequins or highly specialized robot people that can respond in different ways as we program them or as we need to on the fly. But we also have a whole group of actors. So we cross over into several different fields. I feel as I'm listening to lots of the different presentations here. And I know our goal is just to be a resource for the campus to for a place where people can kind of try out different things or learn new skills and then practice them in an immersive environment. So we were able to create somewhat of an immersive environment with creating the tools of the nursing trade, but what we're really interested in is providing the context as well. And so that's where VR comes in. So we were very excited to work on a VR project that would enable students to not only have tools of the trade, but also be in the environment and have the cues of the environment and the context. So yes, I'm reading that from Clint. I'm excited to hear your presentation as well. So just our initial work so far, we've had students, we've had some canned programs that we've used. We do have at the present one VR setup with Oculus Rift, and we're looking forward to getting 2 more. So we'll have at least 3 stations where we can run some research, and we're looking at initial research. We'll be looking at feasibility, usability, things about how long should the VR sessions be as we go forward and develop some content then that would be applicable to nursing and other soft skills training if you're looking to look at communication techniques, look at developing empathy by being in a context. So just a little brief snippet of what we do. And we host the hub that is located in our realm of simulation as well. And Dr. Samwell will be introducing you to the hub.
Dr. Pullout, go ahead and talk about your experience with all of us. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you, Dr. Samwell, and I really appreciate all your leadership in this wonderful initiative. And just the conversations today have been so beneficial, and I'm already making a list of numerous contacts for upcoming initiatives. And special thanks to Dr. Phillips and Dr. Pina Thomas for their innovative work that they've done, in their individual courses and in the Simulation Learning Center. We work in a practice discipline, in Johnson Bethel College of Nursing and Health Sciences. And you would think naturally over the years when you're in a practice discipline and you put together all different types of disciplines that they naturally work together. And it doesn't happen that way. We've learned from experience. I've learned from experience of being in practice over 40 years in education for a long period of time. It has to be very intentional, and it has to have a plan. And it has to have support and resources. In the Johnson Bethel College, we have the language of interdisciplinary work embedded in our vision statement, just to read that to you, that we will provide interdisciplinary leadership for new directions in health promotion and wellness, as well as illness care and disease prevention in the community and beyond through innovation in education, practice, research, and scholarship for health science professionals. And you've heard just one of the initiatives in trying to put innovation, if you will, into our teaching pedagogies by Dr. Pina Thomas and Dr. Phillips. So our vision and mission in our college directly intersects, with the mission of ISP. We have dedicated goals in our college to foster increased opportunities for this type of work, and really excited to see where these discussions will even take us further and beyond. We really recognize that to advance our individual disciplines, whether it's me in nursing, whether it's our health sciences faculty, or whether it's our human physiology and nutrition faculty, that partnerships and collaborations, outside our individual disciplines, we have to advance our ultimate goal for health promotion. The research tells us it's very clear that interdisciplinary work promotes positive patient outcomes. Patients have better satisfaction. They have shorter length of stays, lower healthcare cost. And for each one of us, that impacts us directly when we become consumers of healthcare. Over the last 50 years, the World Health Organization came out in the 70s and really made a statement about the need for interdisciplinary, we refer to it oftentimes as interprofessional work, in healthcare sciences, particularly initially, with the medical education. But it's moved at a very slow pace. I think it was Dr. Jesse Smith who mentioned about it moving at a glacial speed, which has moved very slow, at a very slow speed. But we really have learned that in order to promote really great interdisciplinary work, it does take certain skills. Again, we just don't put disciplines together and it will naturally occur. It does take developing communication skills in particular, and a great awareness of each other's roles. Even in our particular practice disciplines, we oftentimes are not clear on each other's roles in their particular practices. So that becomes an essential, and someone brought that up earlier today, because it's not been uncommon in the healthcare sciences for us to practice in our individual silos over the years. And fortunately, we've moved beyond that and gotten a little bit better at collaboration and partnerships, which we value greatly. So as a associate dean and as a department chair, I see my role as encouraging these opportunities for these increased collaborations throughout all of our programs for our faculty and staff. We need to provide our students with these opportunities because they're going to be put into their practice disciplines and they need these skills in order to implement change. We know in healthcare, things are changing daily. New information's coming out at such a high rate of speed that it's very essential that we collaborate in order to foster innovation and change in our practice. Now, you've heard one example and a few examples from Lynn Phillips on the Simulation Learning Center. Some other examples of just doing more interdisciplinary work can be in merging classes. And we've had a few of those experiences in our college, bringing students from different disciplines together in a mutually course that is a mutual benefit to all of them, to engage them across that for those discussions and dialogues. Simulation has endless opportunities, as you heard Dr. Phillips speak to there, for a lot of collaboration and bringing different professionals in and having the students experience that from all different professions. Community-based initiatives. But I do recognize that interdisciplinary work, as many have mentioned today, requires a lot of time and resources. So as a department chair and associate dean, it's important for me to help assist with this and finding creative ways to secure needed resources, whether it's space, when we talk about the hub in a minute, or needed resources that are needed for a particular collaboration. And also taking any opportunity to recognize and reward our faculty and our staff who are doing great work in these initiatives. But in the end, we are preparing graduates who recognize the role of the disciplines in meeting the specific goals of their field of work. So as I mentioned, they need to develop those effective communications with others in those essential skills to really create solutions and implement change in their practice. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Samwell. We're going to talk about the hub experience.
So I'm just delighted to actually be part of what kind of Dr. Pullout and Dr. Pina Thomas and Dr. Phillips were doing, and being part of that effort for sure. There was an opportunity, and I just want to tell you is that this is the reward which Jesse Smith has talked about, and we are a recipient of that interaction and that interdisciplinary effort which we have put together. the two programs which I have, which one of them is the UCCS Honors Program, and then also the GMI program is part of this effort with them. We have a kind of heavy duty engagement in virtual reality, XR, nowadays that word is being used, augmented reality, and then mixed reality efforts within the GMI program. And we are happy that the interaction was started with Abhishek just few years ago, and pandemic provided us an opportunity to kind of, in some sense, huddle together and create this opportunity, the hub space. And that is the honors program initiative where gray matters, creativity, and complex systems are part of our focus. Also, I wanted to mention that IASP is about the student also, and I'm very happy to say we are kind of doing that in a micro way, because both several students like Ron Jackson, Yosera, Fulbright scholar from Tunisia, Arij Faradi, PhD student. We have a staff member, which is part of our lab, Adam Greenbrier, and also Advita and Sanam and Nikita are from honors program. So we have combined student efforts and then also being part of this hub for virtual reality and empathy study. And I know Clint is talking about avatars and everything else on the chat, so we will be getting together with him. I think also I wanted to mention that Dr. Pullout talked about honors program and summer school of complexity in some way when she said that collaboration among the graduate students, undergraduate students, and industry is being offered right now through Summer School of Complexity. And so that is a new initiative, and the Winter M School of Complexity. I'll have a chance to talk about that a little bit later. But for now, I want to give it back to Dr. Pullout. She provided us the most important asset, which we did not have, which is the space. And that space is so valuable to us. Thank you very much, Dr. Pullout. You have last minute comments, please take it. And then, thank you.
Well, it's just that, you know, identifying space that could be used, you know, that you're maybe not using to its capacity, and trying to identify a different purpose for it. And I don't know whether, Dr. Phillips, if you have anything else to add about the space itself, but, you know, it's just supporting that and allocating the space to be used for that purpose.
Thank you. I think I can see Karen right there. That means we are over time. Sorry about that.
Okay.
You're right on track. Maybe 1 minute over.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cohen. I think we are working with Santa Fe Institute Explorer, and that will be an important part as we move forward. I think we have only 4 minutes left for program to end. I do have important message from Dr. George Reed, Dean and Professor, School of Public Affairs. The disciplines within the School of Public Affairs are all inherently interdisciplinary, and as a result, our faculty are receptive to the application of various perspectives. As an example, public administration is a field that finds value in philosophy, business, sociology, economics, and others. Perhaps that is why we already have a number of dual degree programs that cross college boundaries. Interdisciplinary approaches provide options for our students that allow them to tailor their studies to specific professional needs and interests. The School of Public Affairs look forward to exploring additional opportunities and collaboration with interdisciplinary programs. We also have a video from LAS, so Event Services, please go ahead and play that video.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Dean Vidler here from Letters, Arts, and Sciences, and I just wanted to congratulate everyone for their participation in today's interdisciplinary symposium. And not only for participation in the symposium, but for your energy and engagement with all manner of interdisciplinary research and curriculum and collaboration here at UCCS. In the College of Letters, Arts, and Sciences, we have numerous interdisciplinary programs, both in the BI program and in our other bachelor degree programs, and of course, dozens of faculty members who are engaged in interdisciplinary research, both across the colleges at UCCS and of course, with their colleagues around the world in their various disciplines and cross disciplines. So I want to encourage everyone to continue this work, and thank you to Dr. Samwell for putting this together.
Thank you, Dr. L.S. Dean. I appreciate it very much for your encouraging comments. We had requested other deans to also provide comments, and I'm sure we will get them soon after the event also. So they have been very supportive of this idea, collaborative idea we have. We have come to the end of our presentation today. It was 5 hours long, and I appreciate everybody participating. Look for the I to be explained in the IASP in next few months. We will have a definition. We started with I being interdisciplinary. Now it is the idea of the other, that which is not, the phrase I am. It also refers to virtual reality, immersion, interactivity, imagination. CS is the complex systems component in our name, also for Colorado Springs. I also means interaction, intentional, which is the key for emergence in complex systems. Complex systems are designed to create emergence, and some of the parts is supposed to be larger, and that has to be seen in our case. We have integrated complex system philosophy in designing all of this effort, which we have, at least from my part, that is the focus here. There are so many people who have contributed today. I want to personally thank you all. At this particular time also, I would like to invite the organizing committee. I have to tell you, without them, this effort absolutely would not be possible. In particular, I would like to acknowledge Carol Pena. She has been fantastic in putting this effort today. I will also like to acknowledge my co-host, Dr. DeVries. If you could come on the floor, come on the podium, come on the camera, that'll be wonderful. Dr. DeVries, welcome. Carol, welcome again. And then also we would like to acknowledge Dr. Kuzma, who has been part of it, but he's on vacation, so he's not personally here. Jason Taylor is behind the scene person. Jason Taylor, if you could come on the camera, I will very much appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here. Mark Plex, Bradley Plex, sorry, has been also behind the scene. He may or may not be here. If you are here, that is wonderful. My friend Haven Bishop, we did not know him before. He is there for now. My friend, my dear friend, Dr. Philip Brown, who said Samwell, the XR complexity has to, has some component which are outside. We need to get outside or something like that. He said, I don't remember what he said, but he's also was tapped to be a backup co-host today. If he's here, I would like him to also join us in the camera. I appreciate it very much. And with that, with the whole co-host, with the whole organizing committee in front of you, I want to thank you for being here. If you're looking for more events, we're going to bring one event June 23rd. Dr. Melanie Mitchell of Santa Fe Explorer is going to be coming and visiting us. If you like to plan ahead, June 3rd, 2022 is our next presentation in summer. So thank you all very much. I appreciate you being here. Jason, if you have last minute comments for us, go ahead and talk. If you can.
No, it was an amazing presentation. It went really well, and thanks for letting us be a part of it. It was really awesome.
Thank you all once again. I appreciate it. Please send me email. Feedback forms are there, which you can find on our platform. Carol and I are looking forward to your feedback. Darshika, we could see you here too. Thank you very much for being part of it. And everyone else, thank you. Goodbye. I appreciate it. Thank you.